Hi, I think we'll get started. So, for you who don't know who I am, I'm Bonnie Sillin, I'm the President of NUS Scotland, and today I'm joined by Connor, the Vice President of Communities for NUS Scotland, Simon Tiller, who is a Campaigns Officer from NUS UK, Fergus Bowden, who's an NUS Scotland staff member, and also Murdo Matheson, who's joined us today from UCU Scotland, UCU obviously, who are partnering with NUS for the demo in November. So we're going to spend maybe or so, probably not that much, talking about the context of the demo, basically how to build on your campus to make sure that there's a good turnout on the day for the demo in London. So I'll pass over to Simon. Okay, agenda. So first of all, Connor and I are going to chat about the United for Education demo in the Scottish context. Simon will talk a little bit about mobilising for the demo, and then Murdo from UCU is going to talk about how you can work with your campus trade union and with UCU national level, and then we've got an opportunity for any questions. On the bottom right hand side of your screen, you'll see the little chat box there, and you can pop any questions in there, any comments in there, and we'll try and answer it as we go along. Okay, so I suppose the first part in the United for Education demo in the Scottish context, it's really important to remember that colleges, it was an FE motion to national conference in April that called for the national demonstration, and it was specifically around about issues in further education colleges where the area review process is what our colleges have been going through over the last 3 or 4 years. They call it area reviews, we called it regionalisation, and that's presenting for post-16 education down south. So given that Scotland's colleges have come on a tremendous journey in the last few years, like it's really important on the day, especially that college students are supported to be able to come along to the demo on the day and show solidarity with English unions down south as well. In terms of why NUS Scotland is supporting the demo, obviously the higher education bill which is going through Westminster at the moment only targets English universities, but the Barnett consequentials are absolutely huge, and the Barnett consequentials, formula establishes how much money Scotland is given to run essentially in Hollywood, and it's roughly just below 10% of the total public spend in England. So with Westminster government moving away from investing in universities and instead moving towards student loans for student support and high tuition fees instead of publicly supported tuition fees, what it means is there's less public money going into universities down south, and that translates and means there's a cut in how much money is being sent up to Scotland to be sent up here. Now, it is worth remembering as well that the Barnett consequentials, the education funding is not ring-fenced. So up to the Scottish Government how they decide to spend the money that's allocated up here, but the consequences of such a drastic change in public funding down south is likely to have an impact on public spending up here, and we've seen that over recent years with the cut in funding to universities over millions of pounds over the last year, and the impact that has on staff retention and staff morale, and obviously the kind of experience that students get. And it's really important to remember that it's not just students in England who are affected by this, because a student who's coming from England to study in Scotland is affected by this. When tuition fees in England went up the last time, they also went up in Scotland as well, and a significant number of students come from England to study in Scotland every year. We've already seen issues with that at Westminster, where because of the English votes for English laws system, some English students aren't able to be effectively represented by their MPs up here. Again, it's really, really important to remember that not all students in Scotland are from Scotland too. So in terms of the future for EU students in Scotland, it's really important again to remember that although the Scottish Government has guaranteed that EU students starting their courses from this year will be treated the same as home students for the duration of their course, we don't know what that means beyond this year. I also don't know what that means for EU students who aren't necessarily starting their post-16 education from a standard route, so we don't know what that means for anyone who perhaps going to college to do National 5 or an NC or an Access course before we progress on to HNC, HND, or indeed university study. So all of this is very relevant to the United for Education theme of the demo down south, because actually, although we talk very much about free education in Scotland, we don't really have that. What we have is free tuition for Scottish students, and students coming from internationally, students coming from the EU, students coming from the rest of the UK are all being impacted by changes that are happening at a Westminster level just now. So I'm going to pass you on to Connor, who's going to chat to you a little bit about how to mobilise for the demo.
Okay. So I have a couple of things that I was wanting to talk about, like Bonnie said, around mobilising. One of the things that was on my manifesto this year, and one of the mandates I was elected on, was to host regional forums. So I thought, why not marry the two up? And actually, our first 3 regional forums, which we're hosting in the northeast, in Dundee, Glasgow, and Edinburgh, no dates set in stone yet, but they'll be probably the second week in October, around about that kind of time. What we'll be talking about at those specifically, how to mobilise for the demo, and how to kind of build the confidence and stuff to actually get students to go. Because I know when I was faced with organising for my first demo, which Holyrood demo actually last year, it was kind of intimidating. Think about, oh, this is a whole logistical thing. But actually, when you break it down, it's really manageable, it's really easy. So in our first regional forums, we're going to be talking about this, Northeast, Dundee, Glasgow, and Edinburgh. And one of the things we'll be doing is giving out guidance. So myself and some members of NUS Scotland have together some guidance, like really practical, like tick box level stuff of how to organise yourself for the demo, who do you get in touch with about buses, and having goods and stuff to get people to sign up, so you can get their contact details, or you can get like their email contacts, all that kind of stuff. The thing that we'll be doing is looking at how many buses we think each kind of area roughly will have, and seeing if we can link people up. So as we all know, college student associations don't get nearly as much funding university student associations do. It means college student associations will probably struggle when it comes to getting us to put on a bus. And Murdo later will be talking about how UCU can help and how other unions can help. One of the things we want to do is hook up universities and colleges, so that if a university is put on a bus and they have spaces left, the college can take use of that. So I think it'd be a really good thing that bigger associations and more developed associations can do to support their developing, developing associations that are around them. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, really. Is talking about after Bonnie did all of the policy stuff, I'd talk about how we can functionally, practically kind of make it happen. So hopefully I will see you at one of the regional forums. That will be all of them.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions for Bonnie or Connor before we move on? Great. Okay, so hi everyone, my name's Simon and I'm a campaigns officer at NUS UK. I'm just going through a few tips for mobilising for the demo, some of which might will reiterate what Connor was just saying then. Just some key logistical stuff. So the demo will be on Saturday the 19th of November, and the plan is to assemble at 12 noon in central London. So the route is looking like it's going to start around Pine, and from there, so that's right in the middle of London, and we'll be looking to march towards Westminster, towards the Houses of Parliament, and we'll then congregate at a rally point near the Houses of Parliament, where there'll be a rally with a range of speakers, high-profile speakers that we're securing to speak on the day. Part of the reason for being on a Saturday, which was part of the mission that was passed at conference, was that it makes it much easier for school and further education students to attend, and it also makes it easier for staff as well. First steps and ideas for the first things to be doing. So first of all, looking to who's going to take the lead on the demo from an officer or a staff point of view, who's going to be ultimately responsible for planning, mobilising for the demo. And let us know that would be fantastic, just so that we know who the main point person is, the contact person, so that we're not sending information to the wrong place. Secondly, just looking to recruit a core team of volunteers who can help you to mobilise for the demo and get out there and get students signed up. So a few people you can rely on to help you out and put in the time necessary to get a number of students signed up to come along. Third, contacting a local UTU branch, but I'll leave that to explore about working with UTU. Also in touch with other local students associations, as Connor was mentioning, and looking to link up and work together on mobilising the demo. Other trade unions and campaign groups as well, who might be up for joining in, for organising, getting in touch with all the teaching unions at a national level. Some might be up for having to mobilise people to come, but also they might be able to help with funding, etc., for coaches and so on. And looking through amongst yourself and other organisations that you might be working with, and thinking about setting yourself a target for how many, what you'd be pleased with in terms of the numbers of people that you can bring down. Okay, transport. So, I mean, cost of transport is one of the main things that I have to overcome when mobilising for the demo. We've got a bunch of ideas for helping to keep the costs down and raise for transport in a mobilising guide that we've got, and it sounds like Connor's got a separate thing as well with like a whole bunch of ideas as well. But it basically just trying to book in coaches. If you use coaches and trying to book them in as early as possible will help to get the best possible price. Have a think about whether you might want to sell tickets on the coach as well. That will help in terms of contributing to the overall cost for those who can afford to pay. As I mentioned before, asking trade union branches to contribute support as well. If they can pitch in for some of the costs of the coaches, think about whether you might want to hold fundraising events, or like ask people to kind of sponsor someone who wants to go but can't necessarily afford it as well. Could be a good way of helping to cover some of those costs. In terms of like first steps in terms of promoting the demo, and again we've got there's a whole bunch more ideas in a quality mobilising guide. I think it's about 50 pages long. But from the demo on your website, obviously with clear ways, instructions for signing up, and clear routes to so people know how to sign up for transport if you're organising that centrally. Setting up a Facebook event, of course, with all the info necessary. We've got posters, flyers and stickers and things to send out. So ask if you'd like to have a pack of those sent out to you. Involving clubs and societies, of course, who might be able to help you promote and get more people along. this would be close to the day itself, but thinking about organising things like banner making sessions to make sure you keep people engaged in the run up to the demo itself. Here's the 3 things that you could do now, right now. So on that link there's a whole bunch of links and resources, etc., including a link to the main Facebook event for the demo. Our hashtag is NOG19. So if you get that, that'd be fantastic. And also a Twibbon available as well on that you can link to from that URL there as well. Also a Facebook cover photo that you can use. Here's 3 just useful links. So that page on Connect, again with the shortcut there. I'll pass over to Murdo next, who'll go through more on the UCU, but there's a central page where you can find out who your UCU branch is. And if you want to request materials or have questions at all, just get in touch at campaigns@nus.org.uk address. Okay, does anyone have any questions at all before we move on? Okay, well, going to hand over to Murdo from you.
I was going to say I've been muted there, but somebody unmuted me just as we started. Thank you. Simon was saying, my name's Murdo Matheson. I work as the Policy and Communications Officer for UCU Scotland. And thank you obviously for the invitation to participate today and go through some of the details from UCU's point of view. For those of you who don't know, UCU is the University and College Union, a trade union for academic and academic related staff, largely in Scotland in higher education, not so much in further in universities mainly, and we're the biggest trade union in the sector. I think one of the points that Simon was making about contact other unions as well on campus is well worth reiterating. Trade unions generally, there are more main unions who work in the higher education sector, all really work together very, very well. Will all participate in joint committees within the university. So, if you're approaching one of them, then certainly, request that the same requests are made to all the unions, and generally, I think we would be happy to work on this. I think making the point about why when NUS and UCU and unions, I guess, work together, we're powerful and we're able to well make the case. And I think largely we have a very shared agenda, certainly in higher education. Thinking back over the last number of years, some of the things we've worked on together very well in Scotland around cuts we've seen in the higher education budget from the Scottish Government in the last spending review to counter that, and against tuition fees and the return fees for better student support, and also work we've done together in widening access. I think when you think about why we should work together, it comes down to what a university is. It's not a business. It's not a business trying to give a small number of senior managers and principals exorbitant salaries. What it comes down to is the staff and, importantly, the students. And unless you've got those two people, the university's just an empty building. So I think the examples, looking at the kind of good practice where we have worked together, there's the current review of good higher education governance review that's going on just now, working with, on that. And mostly earlier this year in March, we saw the Governance Act be passed in the Scottish Parliament, which is a piece of legislation that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for NUS and UCU working together. I have to say, against almost opposition from almost every single principal of a university we represent. people, NUS representing students and student associations, CU representing staff. When we do campaign together, we can argue that we are, staff and the students are essentially the sector, and we're a very strong voice. Another thing I'll probably touch on a bit later on as well is we're in dispute with employers over issues as well, and support that we've had from NUS at a UK level, but specifically from NUS Scotland in this context has been absolutely critical. Certainly employers, I think, know that if they can get students to be critical of the pay, their position is much weaker. We do know that strike action is disruptive to students but we also know that NUS and certainly students also know that unless you have decently paid staff who aren't on 0 hours contracts, if you don't have a gender pay gap, then you have a much better student experience when staff are well treated as well. So kind of joint working to build the demo. I think the next slide, if we could move on. Steps. I know a couple of slides back there was from our website an address where you can look up the UCU branch contacts for every branch in the country. So it's worth having a look at that. Most of our branches have also got their own websites. So if you can't find it from that, if you just Google in UCU, Glasgow University, or UCU, Heriot Watt, you should find that the branch website will come up, which will include their kind of key contact details, email, phone, what have you. I think what we do is just to contact the contacts that are there, be in touch with people. Our branches genuinely will welcome that, and we'll also be expecting it. We'll be making them aware to expect contact from student associations and from NUS. And generally they're friendly people. They will be delighted to hear from you. And because of the joint work that we've done, as I was describing earlier recently, because of the support that we've been getting from NUS over our current pay dispute, the relationship is good, but they will be delighted to hear from you. If you have any problems at all working out who to contact, or send an email and you feel nobody's coming back to you or they're not coming back quickly enough, then contact our office, the UCU Scotland office. Colleagues in the NUS headquarters will have our details. Speak to me or one of my colleagues, and we'll try and make sure that you're the right person, or if they need a bit of a prompt to come back to you, then please do that. In terms of how we develop the relationship between student associations and our branches, ask to meet, or I would be hopeful that they would also ask to meet you. If you're holding meetings or you're having sessions to kind of build for the demo, if you ask anybody from UCU to come along and to help with that, or to speak at it, or to be involved, then we would be more than happy to do that, I'm sure. And also vice versa, our branches, will be having meetings, and we'll be encouraging them to ask speakers from as well to participate in that. Simon was describing earlier some of the materials that will be available, and being able to request that. My understanding is that UCU will also be distributing presumably the same materials to our branches locally. So if you run out or you want more, you've got that contact by this stage with the local branch. Then feel free to take some material, or I don't know if there's a cost implication in terms of getting materials from NUS, but certainly there should be from our side, so feel free to get that from them. On transport, I noticed a few references to asking trade union branches if they would be able to help fund buses going down to London and help fund transport. There will be a UCU budget for transport, as I understand it. Aren't finalised yet, I'm still to be finalised, but there is a budget within the union to help with that. So I think certainly I would welcome you, contacting the branch, getting, and then, you know, yeah, definitely requesting if there's some assistance can be given or funding can be given to help the transport and buses and so on. And as part of that, hopefully, you know, we're also somewhere where new members from branches and your institutions will also be able to maybe take up some spaces on the bus and travel down with you. But yeah, definitely, you know, ask for a contribution from them, and you know, they should be, if they're not ready, they should be aware of the process that they can go through to help get funding. I think the final thing I was going to say before I finish was just about this kind of relationship that hopefully you develop with your local UCU branch, and you know, after November, keep it going, because this is not the final issue that we're going to feel in higher education. We showed, and I hopefully I described the first slide, some of the work and some of the differences and the changes that we've made to legislation by working together in higher education and post-teen education. But obviously much more to do. We've got a spending review coming up. Again, we can certainly anticipate the possibility of cuts in that spending review. The support review as well, you know, we need to keep pressure up on that. The higher education bill, you know, largely what we're talking about now, you know, I think very well described the implications to balance consequentials to the Scottish budget. For us as well, TEF, and a huge issue, and you know, how that is going to impact in terms of you know, universities in Scotland have to demonstrate that they're able to participate in the same tables that the TEF will produce in England is a big issue, huge issue. And I think that relationship that we've developed and we continue to develop between the two organisations is one that will make us both stronger in the future. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Murdo. I appreciate you giving up like the vast majority of your afternoon to work with us this afternoon and help us to build the demo. And just to reiterate what Murdo said, like, I'm very proud personally of the working relationship that NUS Scotland has with UCU Scotland and with the other trade unions on your campuses, Unison, yes, to name just two, as well. And so I would absolutely encourage you, as Murdo said, like, build up your relationship absolutely in advance of the demo, but please do keep your relationships with your campus trade unions building, because actually we both represent the same issues, and it's really, really important that the student movement is aligned with the trade union movement moving forward. I hope that the session this afternoon has been useful and helpful and given some context to you. Does anyone have any questions before we round this off?
Can I in? Equally interesting just to hear how far people kind of are aligned with this. And, you know, you reached out to the staff union on the campus to get a feel of how you guys are feeling about the demo and you know, your preparation for it. Don't rush on.
Would any of the student officers like to jump in?
I can do. Hey, how are you doing? I'm finding it pretty hard actually to identify the unions which are involved on at RCS, because we're not UCU, and when I was talking to staff, a lot of them aren't aligned with the union because it's a slightly different setup at the conservatoire. I guess I wondered if any of you have any understanding of what unions to approach a small and specialist institution like us.
Murdo can probably give you better guidance than what I would say is, like, it's likely that the conservatoire has recognised trade unions on campus, and if you're not managing to establish who it is, you could very well just go to the board and find out from the board secretary, because they'll definitely know not only which trade unions are involved in your campus, but who the person is, especially at an institution like the conservatoire, which is so small.
sorry, yeah, no, the Conservatoire is EIS, is the standard, but Unison and others will be there as well. If you're struggling to find branch contacts, if you just phone the EIS headquarters in Edinburgh, I'm sure they would give you a phone number and contact details. But it is typical having just a bit of the presentation that the first questions about an institution where we are not recognised. So.
I've also say that equity, that SUK are in touch with equity about forming arts unions, so it's also worthwhile touching base with someone from equity as well.
Try and do that on Wednesday where they're coming up, so we'll try and do that with them and maybe I know Musicians Union, but I think there's a problem, there's a clash of if they're part of equity, then there's maybe a clash as being a lecturer and being part of like a university union. There was some conversations about that anyway.
Okay, Will, just give me a shout. Has anyone? No. In that case, then I will round this off then and say thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. The webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded, I believe, onto YouTube, so we can spread the good news amongst people who weren't able to be here today. If you need any help at all with getting ready for the demonstration on November 19th, please touch base with Conor Marshall, who's VP Communities for NUS Scotland, myself, the President of NUS Scotland, Bonnie Sandlin, Rob Henthorne, your VP Education, or Angela Alexander, your Women's Officer for NUS Scotland, and we look forward to seeing you on the streets on November 19th. Thanks very much.